The topic of the talk is job hunting during the merry, happy, holly jolly holiday season. Some people the holiday season is so complicated. It's full of highs and lows, euphoria and despair. When you have a job and when you don't have a job, all of those things I think are more intense, more extreme, and so figuring out how to navigate all of that. When I sent out the little blurb about what I was going to talk about, I concentrated on 3 areas. One is about job search during the holiday season. Should you even do it? Or should you just take a break and not think about job hunting at all? So we're going to cover that. And then this whole thing about gift giving. Mandatory, obligatory gift giving, and how irritating that is when you don't have a job. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about just the emotional roller coaster that happens with the job search and with the holiday season. And when you combine those, it just sends you to the happy house. All right. I believe that Loudon Wainwright said it best. He has a song that I've always loved that's called "Suddenly It's Christmas." And my favorite line from "Suddenly It's Christmas" is, "Suddenly it's Christmas. We just had Halloween. Don't worry about Thanksgiving. It's just a buffet in between." And it does seem as though the holiday season just starts getting faster and faster and closer until it's just, it's like a snowball. It just takes us over. So the first part, job search. Should you do a job search? Yes or no? How many think yes? Oh, almost everybody. How many think no? Just give it up. Take a break. Really?
They're not here today.
They're in Acapulco. Yes. Now there were some of you who didn't raise your hand at all. So are you just so jaded and cynical that you're not participating? Okay, I get it. And Brian said you should do both. Now, how does that work? Where
you take a break for a period of time to recharge and spend time with your family. Sometimes you're just not working on your job search at all. Just like if you were working, you get a little days off the holidays. But you shouldn't give up on your search completely. You should just take a couple of days or a few hours if that's all you do.
Okay.
You need to take breaks.
When your family is driving you crazy and you want to get away, there's your job. That's called
So Elaine said if your family is driving you crazy, then do job search. Say, don't bother me, I'm doing my job search. From the bathtub with a glass of wine.
I'm formulating my perfect job.
Yes. This is the think method. Okay, so let's consider this a little bit, the pros and cons of do we search, do we not search. So, under the yes, there's less competition. Lots of people quit looking for a job back in November because how many of you have heard nobody hires over the holiday season? And I have to say that has never been the case with Launchpad Job Club people. We've been in business for 17 years, and the last quarter of the year for my people has always been the best quarter. Even in 2001, when it was close to the nadir of the dot-com bust, so we had the beginnings of 38,000 tech people unemployed in Austin. But then, right when things were looking as though they were going to get a little bit better, 9/11 happened, and everything that was on the table slid off the table. There was nothing going on, and even that year, the best quarter for my people was the fourth quarter. So I don't know exactly why that is, but I think one of the reasons is that the competition sometimes quits looking, and so people get fewer resumes. Yes.
Some companies are less likely to continue looking for a unicorn and just want to get the position filled so they can get going for the next year.
Okay, so what John said was some companies, as the year gets to the end, and this is one of the pointers as well. Some companies are on their fiscal year is a calendar year, and they have designated money for employment that has to be used by the end of the year. So at the beginning of the year, they were pretty picky, looking for that unicorn, and by the end of the year, they got to use that money. They have to obligate that money to a person, and so they might be a little bit more open to hiring somebody who's not the perfect candidate. Carla?
And to add on to that, sometimes if they don't hire that person by the end of the year, the budget for them goes away next year.
That's right. You got to use that money that's allocated. Who had a hand? Oh, you did, Jeff.
Yeah, a lot of companies are on an October 1st budget instead of January 1st.
Uh-huh.
So that's when their budget starts. So they tend to slow up in hiring like June, July, and August because they're doing their budgets.
Now, is that the state?
No,
The state has
for
a-
private sector, and our budget year started in October.
Okay.
So
But
that's
it's,
your first, you've
Are
got
they-
your money, your budgets are allocated. So
Are they a
now you
federal
can.
contract?
No, no, it's just that's August.
but, so if your fiscal year starts at,
Everybody's on the January.
yeah.
So when their green sheets are gonna hit, they're gonna hit October 1st. So they're like, okay, I need to get these people on board. Yeah. And so we need to keep that in mind. So it doesn't, you're right, it doesn't stop. It's just.
So, but lots of time, if you pull back on your job search, then sometimes, you take yourself out of the game, and the folks who stay in the game looking, suddenly things are opening up that hadn't opened up before.
Yeah, I mean,
Brian?
it's kind of what you said, that a lot of job searches are going to start, or hiring is going to start right after January 1st. So if you are there at the top of their queue, because, even the best search takes a few weeks
Yeah.
before you get through the process to that first interview, you're going to be ready at the starting gate at the beginning of the year if you're conducting that search.
Just like diets. How many people say, I'm just going to pick out Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas because I'm starting a diet January 1st?
Yeah, I started mine on November 9th.
The IT employees now moving, they always hiring, so looking for different people, different systems.
Okay, so he said IT is always hiring. They're constantly needing people. All right, so the end of the year hiring deadlines, that was another one. Sometimes hiring managers are a little bit easier to reach. It sort of depends. Yes, they're maybe taking off, going on vacation and that sort of stuff. But with some industries, the industry does kind of slow down. And so if you're trying to talk to somebody, to have an informational interview perhaps, they might be a little bit more likely to sit down, have a cup of coffee, talk to you, answer a few questions. Or we're going to have a speaker in January who said when he calls and does informational interviews, he always says, I know you're really busy. Do you have 10 minutes for me to ask you some quick questions? And he says, I'm very mindful of your time and respectful of how busy you are. So do you have 10 minutes for me to ask you a few questions? And he does his informational interviews over the phone. Sometimes that's the best way, Darla.
Well, and so I just did a third round of interviews with the same company, and I've actually been pretty amazed that they must be trying to staff it quickly and not have a lot of candidates, because both the sourcer and the recruiter called me and spent time with me to tell me what the guy was looking for prior to the interview, and I'm like, this never happens. I felt like they had given me the answers to the test.
Yeah.
So,
And sometimes if you're going through a recruiter, if it's a recruiter that likes you, or if it's a recruiter you've worked with before, and so they're a little bit more, aware of what you do, a good question is to say, is there anything the company is looking for that's not on the job posting? What's going on that they need to expand in this area? Just like I asked Miles, what's going on with the state, with this agency that they're needing to ramp up so much technology? What's happening? Did they get a contract? What's going on? The more you know about the context of a job posting, the better able you are to present yourself. It's also a time when, how many of you have gone to at least one the holiday gathering, party, something? This area is a lot more social. I don't know, I'm worried about all of you. That we haven't really seen very much. Yeah, before you leave, choose a buddy and take them to lunch. Okay, so parties, gatherings, do not think of them primarily as being a place for you to hit somebody up for a job. But you're having conversations with people. And while you're having conversations with people and they're talking to you about your kids and they're talking to you about, you know, their world and you know, they'll say, what's going on with you? And say, well, you know, I got laid off back in so-and-so, so I've been looking for a job. And if it easily flows into the conversation, then that's great. We've seen that happen over and over and over. Recently, some of you remember Mary McKelvey, who got a job with TCEQ. And by the time she had her interview, she had met her hiring manager. She met them at our employment expo. She knew a recruiter. The recruiter introduced her to the hiring manager, the person who is now her manager. But she also was at a soccer game or something like that where her daughters were playing, and she was striking up a conversation with the parents of one of the other kids, and happened to mention that she was going to have an interview with TCEQ, and she said, well, my husband works for TCEQ. They had never talked about anything other than kids, ever. And this time she said, yeah, let me organize a meeting. And so they sat down and talked, and he said, here is the process. Here's exactly what we do. Here's how our projects are managed. Here's whatever. Here's the thing. And when she went into the interview and she said, well, I understand how this job works. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And she said their jaws dropped. They were so impressed by what she knew about the internal operations of the company. So it's an opportunity. Also, I strongly encourage you to think about volunteering. It's not too late to volunteer. I had one miserable, sad period in my life. Thank goodness I've been blessed that I've only had one that was really a bad time for me. And I was supposed to have Christmas in Singapore, and at the last minute it fell through. That didn't happen. And all my family was going to have Christmas in Mexico, so it was too late for me to do that. And so that year I volunteered at the Salvation Army to just spend the day with whatever they were doing up there. And even though I don't ever want to relive that time, but I'm so glad that I had that experience, that it was very meaningful. And it started with a religious service, and one of the guys there was there with his girlfriend, and he had been mugged the night before and showed up all bruised and bloody and beaten up. And there he was, you know, rejoicing over life itself. The whole thing was wonderful. These people who had nothing, and it was like the Whoville people, you know, joining together in song to rejoice over what they did have. And it was an unforgettable, wonderful, heartwarming experience. You can also sometimes get temp jobs filling in for people who are on vacation in mission critical positions, so think about that. It's a time to even suggest that at companies, even companies where you used to work. If your relationship is still good with them and you know that they might have a need, keep those bridges in good repair. So, the no side. Don't search. Sometimes you're so burned out over this whole unsuccessful job search process that you absolutely need to take a break. And this is a good time to do it. Just forget it. Don't think about it. And take care of your emotional self. Take a break. Enjoy your friends. Enjoy your family. Do the things that make you happy, whatever those things are. Have fun. And just keep in mind, nobody hires anyway. So you're not losing anything. When I said put yourself in a little happy place, there's more about that later in the presentation. Whatever it is that makes you happy, whether it's working with your hands, whether it's baking, whether it's playing music, whether it's taking walks, what is it that makes you happy? Try to realize that It should not be excessive drinking or pigging out. Binge watching on some kind of a series that's really fun. Just give yourself permission to do something that makes you happy. Who had a hand? You did.
I was gonna say, but when you don't look, and if you're on unemployment, technically you can't collect.
That's the next
Okay.
slide.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, and then you start renewed, just like with a diet. January 1 with a little bit of hangover. Okay. How many of you are drawing unemployment? Okay. Okay. If you're drawing unemployment, you have to keep looking because unless you're willing to go without unemployment compensation for a week or two, you have to keep looking. If you live in Travis County, you have to make 5 contacts a week. If you live in Williamson County or the rural capital area, you have to make 6 contacts a week. So you have to keep looking. And just remember that I worked for them for a long time, and it is astounding to me that they very often will audit your job search contacts during a holiday week because they know they can catch people that way. And they give you a hard time about it. Did you go away? Did you go away for the holidays? How did you make these searches? So one of my people, they did this over Thanksgiving. They audited him for that week, and they said, did you go away for Thanksgiving? And he said, well, to Houston. And they said, oh, you were unavailable for work. He said, Houston, 2.5 hours, that somebody had wanted to hire me. I'm here, I'm ready, I'm available. And I think, I may be misremembering, I think they denied him his unemployment for that week. And he appealed it and won. But it's like, really? Really? How? Where does that mindset come from? And you work for a state agency that provides services to people? It's mind-boggling. So you have to make your required contacts, keep track of them. And I said, apply to at least one company. And you can count job club meetings, networking meetings. If you go to Toastmasters, that counts as a job search contact. There are lots of different things that count as job search contacts. But when they audit you, they want to be able to make at least one phone call to a company and say, do you have a resume for this job seeker on file? So if you apply for a job through Craigslist, and half the time you don't even know who the company is, but often you'll get a printout that'll say you have just applied to this company. Save those printouts. That's a little paper trail that says that you made that connection. If you sent a resume somewhere and you just sent it out, go back, look at the corporate how to contact us, put down that company number, that 1-800 number, and throw that on there and say, this was the only number I could find. Leave it up to the TWC people to sift through that. What they're trying to do is say, did this person apply? Do you have a resume for them on file?
But honestly, Kathy, anybody who knows Indeed.com can do 5 job contacts in about 30 minutes.
Right.
Probably,
That's really easy.
and track it down.
Right.
So,
You can do that. So what he said was anybody who's looking at Indeed, you can apply easily to these things. I'm just telling you that you need to have if you get audited, you'll need to go back through and have a phone number. They don't send a letter. They don't send something and say, can you confirm this? They want to pick up the phone. They want to call an HR department and they want to say, do you have this person? They want to pick up the phone. They want to pick up the rotary phone.
Send a fax.
One ringy dingy. John? Listen up, please.
I just wanted to mention the 5 Indeed applications are fine, but I got flagged because they said you can't do just electronic applications. So I come here and this counts as a networking contact. That's why I was asking about meetups for next week because
Yeah.
they won't accept 5 electronic.
Okay, good to know. So sometimes people just do, when I used to teach the classes, I taught 10 classes a week and people would, each time you came to a class, it counted as a job search contact. But if you got audited and you said, my 5 contacts are these classes that I took at your office. They would say, no. You know, you can't have all of your contacts be job clubs. We can't have all of your contacts, be electronic, apparently. I thought electronic would be fine as long as you had a phone number. But they just make sure that you, and if you have a career fair, of course, that's the best, because you talk to somebody, you have a business card, you send your resume.
There's a lot of them, you need to figure out,
Right. They give you a log, and you keep track of all of that. Many of you have created your own Excel spreadsheets, which are also fine. Carol?
Higher Texas has got an event Thursday next week, the career fair, so it's a live session you can go to. But just going to a TWC center and signing in there, doesn't that count as a as well?
I don't think so.
That's a good point, yeah.
I don't think so. So Carla said that next Thursday, can you send that to either to me or to post it on LinkedIn? Hired Texas, so that's the job club in Round Rock. Next Thursday, here's a thing for you to go to, is going to have a career clarity meeting. They have a lot of really, really, really good programs. I so highly recommend that job club. I think they're just fabulous.
I think they canceled the Thursday.
Oh, Carla, John said they
No,
canceled
right
it.
after Christmas, yeah.
On the 27th,
She said the 27th they are having one on
Oh.
Thursday. They canceled their meeting, their Tuesday meeting. But the career clarity, if you can do it or post it on the board, go write it on the board so people can have it, that's fine too. And so we'll get that out. So that would count as a contact.
When you guys talk about the TWC not counting, do you mean residential use of computers or do you mean an actual class?
So the question was, if you take a class at Texas Workforce Commission, at the Workforce Solutions Office, that does count as a job search contact. If you just go in there and use their computers to do your contact, that does not necessarily count as a contact. If you go into Work in Texas and do a search in Work in Texas and send your resume, I'm interested, then I think that counts as a contact, if you've actually applied. If you just say I'm interested but I'm going to apply later, that does not count. But if you actually make a contact through Work in Texas.
So, if you're on severance, and because unemployment's getting really weird about severance these days, so my company paid me some severance, and they paid me there was like a week and a half, now I've got like 4 weeks, so they're not going to pay me for 4 weeks. They still expect me to make 5 contacts those weeks, right? On the weeks that I'm on severance? Like they're not gonna-
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
They recommend that you do. Right now,
So they
came to talk to us, they recommend.
If they audit, so the question was, it used to be years ago that if you could draw severance and get your unemployment compensation, because severance was essentially money that they were offering you that was separate from wages. And so you could do both. If you got wages in lieu of notice, however, you could not draw unemployment because those are wages. And then, I don't know if they ever changed the rule, but they seem to change the interpretation of the rule, because they would say, oh, you're on severance, well, we can't start your unemployment because until you used up your severance or whatever the time period that your severance refers to. But she said, do you still have to, while you're drawing your severance, do you still have to make your job search? I said no, because they're not going to pay you anyway. But Paulette said they recommend that you do. Well, I can't imagine. It's like, well, you must not be seriously looking for a job then if you're not. I can't imagine that they could hold you to that if they're not going to pay you anyway. Just like if you're working, if you take a little gig, you take a side job, you take a temp job, you don't even have to file during that time period, and you don't have to make a job search because you're not going to collect anything anyway because you're earning too much money. So you don't have to make your search during that time period.
They tell you when your period is done, and that's when you
Right.
start.
I think you're safe.
It's just the way my company paid out, like there was a week I didn't get paid, so that I got it from unemployment, and then 2 more weeks came in. And then
Boy, that's irritating.
Especially, I finally have the one lady's number, and I called now before I filed the claim, getting ready to file the claim.
Good for you. Yeah, having a person to call, excellent. Yes,
But I mean, if you're job searching, don't you want to track all your contacts anyway?
you do. You do, and there's nobody that is not looking. Yes.
especially.
Yes,
I
of
have three
course.
little letters that will help you track it, and you don't have to create your own spreadsheet. You've heard me preach this before. It's called CRM. Sales is, job searching is essentially a sales function. Sales uses CRM. Everybody in here probably working for a company would benefit from being comfortable with CRM if they're not already. So that is one option.
So where do you get this, the free software?
Talk to me. Online, there's
Okay.
several.
Okay.
Jibber Jobber is the one.
Jibber-
Jobber is made for job search.
Jibber Jabber is in the handbook, but I've heard, and I can't remember who told me. Pam.
It was me.
Okay, Pam said Jibber Jabber is too expensive and is not good. And you told me another one, which I'm going to put in the new handbook. And what is that one?
It's called Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Huntr. It's a little more, for those of you that are a little more visual than your spreadsheet, kind of. I'm going to give a talk and I'll show it next month. But it's I found it to be a really helpful tool. It kind of prompts you on sort of what's the next steps for you to think about as you're applying. So you can go, this company is a company of interest, and you copy and paste the job description in there and all your contacts and stuff for that. And then, and then you can move it over to when you get an interview, move it over to when you get an offer, move it over to when you've been denied, and you can kind of see it. It's almost like 3x5 cards when you used to do a research paper kind of thing. Only everything is digital. And then for like $7 a month or $8 a month, they'll push you contacts from the company into it there. And from your phone, you can do like an Indeed search, a Glassdoor search, or I forget the last one. And then it will actually populate. So you're like, oh, I want to apply for that job. You just click, if you go through Hunter, you click at Glassdoor, oh, that's the job I want to apply for. And you click that job and it immediately populates Hunter for you. And so that you can, and then it's really super visual. So you can color code everything and stuff like that. I found Jibber Jabber to be like a company that just like, they got everybody on board about 4 or 5 years ago, and they, are charging you about $50 a month. Or a year, and the interface is really old and it feels really clunky. And I kept going through your tutorials, and I was having a really hard time just entering contacts. It was just really.
So we're going to take Jibber Jabber off the handbook and put Hunter in instead. And as she said, she's going to give a talk on that in January. So I'm hoping you'll all be here for that. Yes, Ryan?
Speaking of CRM, you can actually get a free Salesforce account. And by the way, there's free in-person Salesforce training starting January 8th. If you're interested, ask me about it. I took a class in October. They're repeating the beginner class, and then they're also doing what they call less beginner, because they didn't want to scare people off by calling it advanced. Starting January 8th, it's being done by the Austin nonprofit Salesforce group. It's all free. It's at the Goodwill Center over near, there's a Walmart on 35, I don't know what it is, but
I'm sure you have registered.
anyway, you have to go through Eventbrite and register.
Okay, so January 8th, free Salesforce training, go through Eventbrite.
Do you know if you get Trailblazer badges for that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes you do. It's 4 weeks, it's really excellent training.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll send that out to the group as well, but thank you very much for that. That's great. That's great.
One of the suggestions I got recently was that LinkedIn, you should go into your LinkedIn and your Monster and update your resumes and your information there, because companies are looking
Right, that was what.
last 2 weeks, last 3 weeks.
Right, we had a
it's been
speaker
said
that
before.
mentioned that, and that's
Yes.
what we used to advise. Any place that your resume is posted, all those job boards, if you'll go in, we used to advise people to go in once a week and make a change. And in the olden days, we would say, go in and pull up your resume and add a space. Go in the next week, take that space out. Go in the next week, put that space back in. But, and if you really make a more extensive update than that, it's even better. But you come out on a list of essentially new blood, new job seekers, in the same way that you don't want to go to a company and say, I want to see all the jobs that have been posted on this site that are still open that were posted in January. You don't want to do that. You want to see what are the jobs that have been posted maybe 2 weeks ago. And in the same way, recruiters say, I want to see people who just came on the job market. I don't want somebody who's been unsuccessfully looking for a job for 2 years. There's something wrong with them. That's the assumption. And so we do everything we can. We fill our resumes up with Leap to Success projects and volunteer work and personal sabbaticals and everything we can to make it look as though we are still viable, up-to-date, lifelong learning candidates. So that's one way to kind of game the system. All right, part 2, gift giving. How do you do that when you don't have any money? They say that there are 5 ways to show love. And the first one is gifts. You give somebody a gift, it shows you care. But you can also give them time, which is, for most of you, the most valuable thing you have right now is your time. Where are you going to spend your time? How are you going to use your time? Can you give your time to somebody else? That is a long service. When you do things for people, that's another way to show you care. Touch, just giving people hugs, hand holding, all of those things. They're not, yeah, right. And then words. Tell me an example of somebody that you know of who used words to show that they loved and it was a gift. Because I know a good one if you guys can't think of something better. Are you confused by the question? Okay, well then I'll tell you my answer. We'll just move on. So somebody was telling us about the fact that from the time he first became a father, he started to keep a journal about things that he wanted his new child to know. It was a son. And when the son turned, I don't remember what it was, 18 or something like that, or the son went through some period, or the father died, or I don't remember what the deal was. But here was this, it wasn't a journal, it was just a series of letters to this child about things he wanted him to know and things he thought would be important and things from the heart. And I thought, man, what a gift. What a gift. It's better than something you paid a ton of money for. It's irreplaceable and unique and from the heart. And sometimes you wrap up a letter, write a letter to everybody you care about, and that's your gift. And that's what gets framed, and that's what gets remembered, and that's what gets in the packet of papers that you take with you when there's a fire burning down your house, rather than all the material things that you have. In terms of time, who can give me an example of something you can do for somebody that just has to do with the gift of time?
Watch their kids, cook them a meal, take them somewhere they need to go.
And so some of those things can be time and service. Just listen. Oh, what a concept. Visit somebody in a nursing home and just spend time with them. How many of you have been in a situation, this is a rhetorical question, I do not need hands in the air. That's so irritating when you just have to keep putting your hand in the air. But think about the times when you've given a gift to a child, and they say, can you stay and play? I'm sorry, I have somewhere I have to be. I'm sorry, I don't have time right now. I'm sorry, I've got a million things to do. Stay and play. Give them your time. That's more valuable than a gift half the time.
And my daughter today, I said, I want to buy you something for Hanukkah or Passover. And I know you want, rain boots, and I know you want a robe, you want to get some money. No, I want you to go shopping with me. Oh, that made me feel so great. This year she's off at college, and so she gave me a gift.
She gave you a gift.
Yeah.
I want you to be part of my life. I want you to spend time with me. Yeah. So time is something that you have to give, and it's valuable. So here are some ideas, and all of these are not solitary. These are with somebody. Go take a walk on this beautiful day. Go take a hike. Go ride a bike. Let's go bike riding. Especially, I would love, not that any of you need to think about this, I would love for somebody to give me for Christmas, somebody who lives really, really close to me, to say, Every day, 7 a.m. Let's go move. Let's go to the gym. Let's go take a walk. Let's go running. Let's go bike riding. And I would get up and do it because I've got this friend that's counting on me to be there. I live way south. Oh, really? Well, we might do a deal. I might give you that gift. You can give me that gift. I would not. I would not. Because I have a great sense of obligation. And so I would think, oh, God, I have to do this because they're waiting for me.
Appalachian Trail.
That's true. That was 20 pounds ago. Okay, have a game night. There's a gift. Work on an impossible jigsaw puzzle. There's a gift. Watch a movie. Not in the movie theater where you have to pay. At home. There's a gift. Share a meal. Go have coffee, tea, wine, fireplace. Perfect. It's just time. It's just spending time with somebody. Go look at the lights and make cookies together. Do something with somebody, and that's your gift. That's your gift. The same kind of thing with service. So Darla gave us some. She said, watch somebody's kids, clean their house, run errands for them. There are lots of things you can do. What's some other services you can provide for people to show you care?
Animals if they're going out of town.
Sure, you can be a critter sitter.
So I had a friend this week, she's not a close friend, but she doesn't know a lot of people here, doesn't have family here, and she had surgery on her shoulder, and she asked me to be her person to take her and pick her up. I said, sure. Didn't know what I'd signed myself up for, but, 8 hours of service and time, so. Yeah.
There you go. Here's some more. I have my kids' great-grandmother used to so proudly show everybody her garden that was a Christmas gift from her son, who tilled it all up and created this garden and planted her first crop of vegetables and everything, and then she maintained it after that. But it was a gift of service and time and love. So install a garden, plant flowers for somebody, plant a tree, give somebody a manicure or a pedicure. I don't know anything about either one of those, but as you can easily tell. But at any rate, there's a thing. Help them organize their photos. What a fun project that would be. Because as you're going through old photos, you're remembering stories and you're remembering relatives and good times together. And it's a gift so that you don't have photos, just shoved in boxes. They're all organized. Clean out somebody's garage that you care about. Go in and paint a room. Declutter. Help them get started on a decluttering project. Ooh, what a concept. Build something. Anyway, all of those are gifts of service. Gifts of service for somebody. The third part is about the roller coaster of emotions. And so it helps to understand what kind of a bird you are. Are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? How many of you identify as being an extrovert? No. I'm really surprised that there are that many of you. Lots of people, I think extroverts are rare. An extrovert, supposedly the definition is that if you've had a really rough day, for example, you get energy from being around people. You can't wait to go, meet people after work and go socialize and so forth. And going to big meetings like this, it energizes you. You come back and you're renewed from being around people. You're an extrovert. You're pumped up by that. Introverts, when they're around a lot of people, they are exhausted. They just want to be left alone. I'm actually an introvert, and not that I don't like all of you, but I'm an introvert, but I turn it on and off. I'm an extrovert at Launchpad, when I'm waiting tables, and when I'm teaching classes. And the rest of the time, I'm an introvert. So I don't know where that toggle switch is, but that's the others. So during the holidays, if you are an introvert, if you're happier when you're all by yourself, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, taking some time to be by yourself. And just listen to music if that's your happy place. Or read a book. Give your permission to just read a book all day long. Take a walk. Watch something on TV all by yourself if you want. Don't feel guilty for wanting to be all by yourself. But be happy. If you are feeling isolated and depressed, that is not a happy place. Then you need to get help, you need to be with people, but it depends on, you know, what makes you happy and fulfilled. Make sure you understand the difference between those two things. Being alone is not a bad thing, as long as you're happy in that space. If you are an extrovert, so you're happier when you're with friends and family, that's okay too. They're both okay. So this is when you do things with other people. You share a meal, you play a game, you go dancing. That's a fun thing to do with other people. Attend a party, and if you don't have any parties to go to, throw a party. Find somebody else who doesn't have anybody to do something with and throw a party and tell them they have to bring something. Volunteer, always good over the holidays. But wherever you are, that needs to be your happy place. So it's important that if you are on an emotional roller coaster over the holidays, that you think a little bit about where am I happiest, what makes me happy, and arrange for you to be there.
I don't have any science behind this, but I don't think these are binaries. You can be in between. You can be an introvert in some situations and an extrovert in others. So you might tend toward one or the other, but you can have.
Yeah, and especially if you're in like a family situation and it's kind of noisy and chaotic and it's happy and you're happy that they're happy and it's, you know, how good does that feel to go leave and take a walk all by yourself?
Yeah, I'm an extrovert, so I want to leave.
Yeah. But you want to avoid stress. And this little graphic, I kind of liked it. It has the 6 different emotions: happy, excited, tender, and then the bottom ones are scared, sad, and the worst one of all is angry. I don't know if that's the worst, but it is for me. So to avoid stress, don't take on too much. Perfection is overrated. Surround yourself with fun, upbeat, positive people. This may not necessarily be your family. And it's okay to minimize your association with the negative people and expand your association with the positive people. Moderate your intake of sugar and alcohol. Both of them will make you depressed. Listen to music. I'm telling you, music is the biggest mood enhancer. There was a thing today on the radio yesterday that was, how can you tell if you're a real Austinite? Did any of you hear that? When can you define yourself as an Austinite? How long do you have to be here? What do you have to have experienced in order to be considered an Austinite? And one person was talking about the old Aquafest, and in the background was playing Stevie Ray Vaughan. That kind of music for some people is the great. It sets the mood. And I heard Stevie Ray, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, groovy, Aquafest, yeah, I remember that, okay, that's cool. And then this girl said, you cannot call yourself an Austinite. And the music started like dark, you know, not Jaws, but that low register, creepy, depressing, horrible. You cannot call yourself an Austenite until you have fought for food with a grackle. But everybody knows what an impact music can have on your mood, on your emotions. So if you're feeling down, what's some music that'll bring you up? Go for a walk. Problems get smaller when your world is bigger, so go outside. And breathe, smile, it works. And be grateful for whatever it is that you have. And then here's that beautiful little picture.